Morning, everyone. So we've spoken about entrepreneurship, we've spoken about entertainment, and of course enterprise as well in our past sessions this morning. All with AI being the underlying next wave of technology, and now we're here to talk about the other big vertical that in the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem that's really been growing by leaps and bounds. That's fintech, and insurtech has been a major player in that area, but Ish, it's great to have you here today. I want to start with both the challenge and the opportunity, right, in insurance. Though India is such a large market, vast population, we've just got about 5% penetration. So, how are you really viewing the landscape here, and what do you think is the opportunity really in providing for tier 2, tier 3, and rural Bharat?
First of all, thanks for inviting me. And to the audience from entrepreneurship, all of a sudden to insurance. I know most of you hang up the call the moment you really get an insurance call, right? But when we really start looking into what we have to really offer from specifically vocal point of seeing tier 2 to tier 4 cities, we have what 90 crore Indians living in rural areas in India. They are not one of those who are really going to look into a DIY journey to buy insurance, right? Typically, the behavior is they want to buy insurances through trusted advisors. And now these advisors are the one who would be equipped with the right set of tools with which they would be able to offer the right policy to the end customer is where the entire game really changes, right? Now, when you start looking into how you can really enable them, because you are looking at more than 6 lakh different villages, how you are looking in terms of distributing insurance, you have to think in terms of how they sell insurance to the end customer. So it's pretty much phygital world, and when you get into phygital world, you have to ensure that the entire discovery and at the right time, at the truth of moment where insurance is really getting used, you are able to have the right trust with which when they are using, let's say, or going for a claim, they are able to get the right promise served.
Sure. So I want to just, dig deeper into the entire trust factor because that's really the key aspect for insurance. And you mentioned, the agent and the phygital, network that is important. I think InsuranceDekho today powers more than 2 lakh local agents digitally as well. So give us a sense of what that journey has been because really bridging that trust and access gap in India's insurance story is critical.
So, overall, as an intermediary, when you're really selling, let's say, insurance through advisors, you have to first of all onboard advisors, right? While you're onboarding advisors, you also really need to ensure that these advisors they are also equipped not only in product understanding but also in terms of how they're really going to use the platform. Because at the end of the day, when they're really selling that policy, because the first sales for a new to insurance advisor really turns out to be in the circle of influence. So they would know, let's say, family members, close to family members and friends, a circle of around 150 odd people, and they will have personal interest that they are able to pick up the right product for them because they are trusting him to sell that particular insurance policy. And if you have to offer, let's say, 650 plans on top of a platform, you have to give him enough tools so that he's able to right size and pick up the right product for anyone whom he's really selling it to. So if you see from that perspective, there's a lot more learning which typically goes into how you are training those advisors. There is a lot more AI-led innovation which we really use to give them nudges where they are able to not only understand product, platform, yet they are able to understand the requirements from the customer to really serve at the right point. And third and foremost, the most important really aspect really turns out to be is a 2 lakh number good number? I would say not at all. As intermediaries put together, we would be what somewhere around 8 to 9 lakh. Uh, Penetration is just 4%. So there is enough more. We should be looking at 100x such number to really have everyone served.
So that brings me to the question on accessibility and affordability, right? Because we're talking about first-time insurance buyers, and how do you, this entire conversation about how do you move insurance from a push product to becoming a pull product, really, by way of local intermediaries that you just spoke about, vernacular design, as well as probably micro insurance products. What are you doing on this aspect?
See, primarily it turns out to be important that first of all, there are enough products which are really available at the end point where a person is able to pick up the right product, right? So I believe in tier 2 to tier 4 cities, the most important aspect really turns out to be if my budget is limited, which is the right product which can serve my purpose, right? Products they keep on changing, sachet products they keep on coming. How quickly you are able to bring that particular product to the village in Begusarai turns out to be very important, right? And then what kind of pulse which you can really get from the local ground to really understand this is the custom requirement which you really have. Now, since InsuranceDekho has got over 2 lakh plus agent partners across, we also really understand what is the requirement at the end. We work very closely with the insurers, and we also give our input on the basis of which the customization also really happens. So I think a lot really go hand in hand in terms of as a part of ecosystem that really understand the real requirements, and you are able to percolate into a stage where new products are also really launched.
Right now, Ish, you're also the co-founder and the CTO, so a lot of questions on the tech stack front of things as well, right? At one level, we speak about the semi-digital nature of consumers in Bharat, but we're also speaking about, low touch, no touch, mobile-first onboarding. So, how really do you deal with this dichotomy or work at this intersection by way of your UI, UX? We also have a lot of voice-led navigation happening now. And with AI in the mix, how is all of this becoming a little bit more seamless and automated?
See, for a first time insurer buyer, I think it turns out to be one of the experiences where an advisor is really guiding them. But you have to see a lot more digital play which happens behind the curtain, right? The digital play is how you're really ensuring that advisor is using a great tech at the background, which is leveraging AI to ensure that you are able to pick up right products at real time. So in case somebody is asking for, okay, I've got diabetes, I'm, let's say, in a village very close to Karnataka, which is the right product for me, would have a kind of a selection which has to happen from more than 300 different plans, right? Given the age, given the history, you would be able to see the right plan. And there would be questions which will be coming on the fly. What in case I want to have, a family float, or all of a sudden from a single policy to a different policy, you need to tweak in. And in case the advisor is able to pull out the right answer without any assistant in a village, all that tech play is happening behind the curtain, right? Second aspect, when we really see from a assistance perspective, the kind of agents, there are more than 22 languages which are really spoken in India. So you have to have that level of vernacular touch with which you are able to respond to these queries in real time again. So even though discovery is advisor led, but it is pure play tech with enough complexity to handle and to give responses in real time.
So let me just ask you about the AI chatbot that you launched very recently, right? I think it's been about a little over 6 months. What has really been the feedback and the adoption on that front? Are you actually seeing a difference now on the back end process and also pushing first time buyers?
Precisely. I think it already happened because it was more of a need rather than, just a proactive approach. Because what we were really landing while we were training most of the advisors in terms of the products which they have to really choose from, there were enough and more confusions. And we could really see when they were really requesting for a response to really come in, the reliance on a domain expert was turning out to be way too high. So there were actually 2 to 3 different versions which really got rolled out. The very first version was not even for the agent partners to start with, was more onto captive audiences where we really have a kind of a call center where people, when they're really asking for a response, we really figured out the solution was again dependent upon somebody who's standing on the back end and saying, you know what, you can recommend this particular answer rather than somebody typing in, right? But when you look into an advisor who is most of the time coming to a central part, they needed something at their hand where they are able to ask that, okay, the person has all of a sudden really highlighted, I don't really, it's a couple, but they don't really need a maternity benefit. What are the other options which I can really choose from a particular product? Now, this is happening on the fly. If the request comes on a health chat genie pro, you would be able to clearly identify out of 20 different plans which are the top plans, because now there is a new filter which has really come in. All right. And since it's unstructured and you get a response on the top, all of a sudden the person has got the right confidence not only to offer one but five different variants with which you'll be able to see that which is the right optimal product which is to be really pitched to the end customer. So it turns out to be huge adoption for us. Most of the advisors, they are relying on finding out the right product using a health progeny chat, and then with that they are able to make the sales
So
happen.
have you actually seen, adoption scale in tier 2 and Bharat by a certain number? Have you seen it becoming a little more efficient? Any stats on that front?
Growth as of now is coming only from, I would say, rural
Okay.
India. The real growth is there. That's still an untapped market. It's not just us that if you're really going to look into insurer, if you're going to dice down, real growth is there. It's the rural India which is fueling the growth for India as of today.
Great, and the other thing that I want to bring out here is that as a platform, I think InsuranceDekho is across all the touch points in the ecosystem. You have your consumers, you have the agents, and of course the partners that sort of come up with these insurance plans. So how are you enabling that end of the spectrum and the ecosystem? You have a full stack solution, HEF, that you've launched. How does that work?
So I think that was one of the very interesting opportunity which we really realized we should really look into. We put our hard work to ensure that the architecture which we really building for specifically to solve for distribution in India and InsuranceDekho is not just limited to just us offering that to everyone. All right. It can be really leveraged in terms of with NBFCs, with other people who have got captive audiences, who got, let's say, some level of licenses, and they are trying to sell policies to end customers and their customers. How can we really give them our platform with all the, let's say, integrations in place, with lots of innovation which we have really built, how that can turn out to be a backbone? It started from there, and that's when we really realized that the backbone really turns out to be standing on the same pillars. So we carved out HEF. We got a great founder, Ayush Babbar, and then one of the core engineering guy who was leading InsuranceDekho. He also turned out to be part of the co-founder of HEF. Now these two guys are running out because the roadmap which will require for HEF to take to a different scale require a very different set of features, and they are taking you to a different scale. But it originated from the fact that architecturally we created the system in such a way that you can carve out in no time a good system which can take its own destiny in future.
So tell me a little bit about this, right? Because it is, you worked with the founders of HEF, like you said, but it is now your in-house full stack platform. How important is it to build it all in-house, really? And like you mentioned, is the infrastructure backbone at the end of the day? So that is a question that we get asked often. Do you have, like outside hardware, software, and platforms that you build, is in-house more important?
So I think, Shivani, the most important part really turns out to be when you're building a product, right? You need to be very clear about the fundamentals, that how you are really going to take it to scale.
Yeah.
When we created InsuranceDekho, we were very clear that the biggest differentiation got to be that all the transactions got to come on the platform, and we need to have one of the widest portfolio of integrations which should happen. When you're looking at integration, it need not be hard coded. It rather be, let's say, a low code, no code platform from where you'll be able to configure which all insurers which you really want was designed from day one. When we really look into the current stage, if we have to offer similar kind of an architecture to, let's say, someone who is not really looking at all the options of integrations, but since they have different captive audience. They have different integrations. They want to have, let's say, not 49, but let's say they want to have 25 odd insurers. Can they really have that kind of a configuration? So if architecture supports that particular part, you would be able to get into a stage to have those level of configurations separately for different customers. So when HEF really got carved out, it was on the backbone of the right architecture, and now HEF has got altogether different requirements. So as we speak, they have, let's say, more than 200 plus labels who are working with them. There are at least 20 plus different configurations with different integrations, with different priorities, with different custom requirements, and all of that really getting managed by the HEF team now, and a different roadmap altogether.
Right, and the other thing is also about the expanse of data that you have now with all the Bharat consumers as well, right? When you speak about the people in the metros, yesterday we were speaking to PhonePe Insurance, and they were telling us that on their platform it's auto insurance that is the most sort of product that gets traction. But with all the data that you have and the personalization layer that you can also do more efficiently with AI. Are you looking at, crop insurance becoming a big thing, micro insurance within health becoming a big thing? Because agriculture is the other big, aspect at play in Bharat.
See, I think three things are any which ways pretty much on top of everyone's mind, which is your GI, which is your auto, health, life. What is becoming a lot more important as of today is SME insurance. That's turning out it's into a different stage altogether. Businesses really need to have SME insurances in place. And there are lots of government initiatives as well. When we really look at Maharashtra, right, they have already got state government highlighting that every shop really need to be really insured. If you see from that perspective, that's taking another growth altogether. Uh, Crop insurance, as well as, let's say, the sachet insurance is really picking up in big way, given the kind of changes which are really happening in weather. It turns out to be a very important aspect. There are lots of government initiatives which are really pushing in that particular direction, that everyone should really get into a stage of getting insured. So if I see overall, I think we're still scratching the surface. The real growth has to happen. From a platform perspective, InsuranceDekho, we are getting enough data points where we are working with insurers, giving our insights. We are requesting them and also really working on co-creating products. Uh, but that's where the stage is, right? For HEF, I think it's absolutely a different entity now. They have their own customer base. We don't have access to their data. They have their own set of customers whom they're really offering the platform, which is restricted to their customers. So there is no cross pollination of information which can happen.
On a zoomed out level ish, in terms of policy and regulation, right? We've seen the insurance for all by 2047 mission that the government has. We've also seen some GST reforms when it comes to health and life premiums. So, how is all of this impacting the sector and its growth?
There are lots of great initiatives which are really happening because everyone in the ecosystem is working in one direction, thinking in terms of how to get everyone insured by 2047. Right? If you really see the kind of initiatives such as Bima Sugam, if you're going to see the kind of initiatives where Bima Grahak, so the entire aspect from a government, from an intermediary perspective, is to get into a stage where we are able to cater to three things. We at InsuranceDekho generally call it as Bima, Bimari, or Berozgari, right? So
Take,
everybody should be insured, right? Everybody should have, a kind of a state where there is a coverage in case there is something going on with your health, you are being taken care of. And since we are advisor-led model, we see we are creating micro entrepreneurs to get into a stage that we are able to have enough and more address done at least to the guys who are in these villages to create livelihood using, let's say, advisor as a earning member for their families.
Of course, like I said, there's this entire ecosystem that's being enabled at the end of the day. And my last question to you is in terms of, what are some of your biggest learnings on your journey of building for Bharat in terms of tech, in terms of design, as well as user behavior? What are your key learnings?
I would say one of the most important part for all the fellow entrepreneurs and the techies out here is when you're really building a solution, you have to be very clear what are the bets which you're really trying to take, right? These bets are always, to extinguish the daily fire, but you have to always keep in mind that when you're building, you have to keep what is your north goal. So when we started building Insurance Deco, we were very clear everything is going to hedge around technology. You need to have online journeys across. It's not, just sell it, forget it kind of a business. It is something which is sell it, service it, renew it, and cross sell it. So if you see from that perspective, all the pillars which were really created, they were created with that mindset. And that really helped us at the right time to really think in terms of when we wanted to take opportunities to spin off, let's say, HEF, get into a stage with composite licensing coming in, how people can take leverage from what we have really built. And there is always, a learning which typically comes in. For me, that learning of, keeping that layered architecture in place was not just here, but in prior experiences where I could really figure out. It took me immense effort to carve out something to a different stage because the architecture was not correct on day one. So if you keep that as one of the goal, I think it helps. The other aspect I would probably, would like to say from the recent phenomena, keep AI at center of it because it's a disruptor. The kind of use cases which you can really solve, operational efficiencies which you can really bring in are immense, right? And in case you think AI first, probably the journeys are going to be way different compared to in case you build first and then you try apply AI on it. Yeah.
Sure, Ish, on that note, we'll wrap it up. But do feel free to catch Ish around for the next few moments. He'll be around. Thank you so much for your attention. Thanks, Ish.
Thank you.